Welcome to the One Idea Away podcast. This is the voice of Jenny Wiley. I'm Director of Community for the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, or IPEC. And in today's episode, we are featuring an interview I had the honor of hosting with one of our amazing certified professional coaches, Raia Carey, or Coach Carey, as her clients like to call her. In this Energy Explorer series interview, Raia and I dive into the building blocks of creating a more confident you. And by confident, I don't mean a fake it till you make it type of confidence. We are talking true, authentic confidence, where we get to show up as our whole selves, the good and the bad, and feel empowered to live in this truth. It is such an important message, and even more so in times like now, when it can feel difficult to really own all the parts of our journey, especially when it doesn't feel as good as we want it to. So listen in and enjoy. Raia's energy is authentic and contagious, and we know you're going to love her story.
For the next hour, it's Raia and me, Energy Explorer series. And we're going to be talking about shifting what hinders you into what empowers you. Yes, so let me give everyone a little bit of an insight on what the Energy Explorer series is. So at IPEC, our mission is to raise the consciousness of the world one person at a time. So not only are we certified professional coaches, we are a community of helpers with big hearts and amazing stories. So the Energy Explorer series is here to highlight coaches like Raia who are in our community, who are using their talents and drive and highest selves to live their purpose.
Absolutely.
So whether you are already an IPEC coach, or you're interested in becoming a coach, or you're just totally into conversations like this, you are totally in the right place. We're all about getting to the heart of what it means to be a certified professional coach and the unique journeys that we all experience. So welcome everyone to our Energy Explorer series. Raia, I'm going to give you a formal introduction. So joining me today is Coach Carey, Raia. And as a certified life coach and motivational speaker, Raia is passionate about encouraging others to tap into the confidence they never knew they had. Yes. After overcoming various hardships, Raia was able to transform her mindset and begin a career that empowers others to do the same. And she created, quote, the Confidence Talk, and that has allowed her to provide corporate wellness workshops to a wide variety of organizations. You might have heard of LinkedIn, Soho House, Royal Bank of Canada, Tribal Scale, and many more. By openly sharing her triumphs and tribulations, Raia uses her vulnerability to foster a welcoming and safe environment in every room she enters. And she strives to inspire and lead those around her by providing unwavering support, guidance, and motivation. And so by equipping them with tangible tools to implement in their daily life immediately, Raia steers her audience towards self-awareness, resilience, and sustainable success. So everyone, please help me welcome Coach Carey. Raia, thank you so much for joining us on the Energy Explorer series.
What a perfect title, because I'm constantly full of energy. So
I love it.
Thank you.
I have some questions that I want to ask you, and I want to invite everyone. Yeah, if you have any questions for Coach Carey while we're talking today about her story and her journey, maybe even some insights about what you've learned, please feel free to tune in using that Q&A box. But I'm going to start off with one of my questions. I noticed as I was, meeting you and learning more about you in your coaching practice, I really see you as an advocate for building confidence and self-love in ourselves, and particularly aligning with our own unique journeys. And so tell us about your unique journey. When you were deciding to step into this role as Coach Carey,
yes,
what was going on in your life that made you think this is what I'm ready to step into?
Jenny, what a great question. Are you a coach or something?
I am a certified coach. Thank you for asking.
Honestly, it was a journey is a great word. And I went back to school and I went to IPEC when I was 27. So at the time, riddled with limiting beliefs, being like, I'm too late. I'm going to be the old person. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Oh, I'm only going to start my career at 27. I'm behind. And I had done events for 10 years prior, which was fun. I made a lot of great friends, had a lot of fun, did a lot of dancing. But I always knew I was a little bit different. I was kind of deemed like the white knight in that industry because I was always a woman of my word. I didn't backstab people. I didn't do drugs. And everyone was like a clean, safe fun. And that was kind of seldom in that industry. And I didn't realize that because I was just being me, my authentic self. However, that started to feel really no longer aligning with me. And at 25, I remember being like, okay, maybe I'll be a manager or a marketing manager or own a club or something like this. But as usual, the universe kept closing all the doors. And so I stuck it out for a couple more years. And then I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I stopped drinking for a year. I lost over 300 pounds from 23 to 27. So a lot of things had shifted from when I had first started doing events. And I majored in psychology in university. So I'd always loved kind of thinking about why people do the things they do. And I remember then at 27 is when I heard about coaching. And I was like, interesting. You know, I'd heard about Tony Robbins a little bit, but it was still quite new. And I remember looking into it and doing a bunch of research. And then I had my call with an admissions advisor. And it literally, in that moment, in that call, it felt like it had aligned all the dots throughout my entire life.
Wow.
And I was like, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm meant to do. This is my life purpose. And it just aligned more and more and more. I'd never before been that excited to do homework. I'd never been so excited to come home after module 1, after retaining all that information and coming home and wanting to talk about it, wanting to learn more, wanting to look at my notes. I was never that student. And it just made me rise. And so such a journey of battling and combating those limiting beliefs to show up, to not give up, to have those show up to the teleclasses in the summer and be on point with my peer coach and all that good stuff. So it was an up and down journey, but the confidence came from having the information, having the support, having those resources that IPAC truly does an amazing job of providing, because I'm a secondary processor when it comes to big things. So I heard it all in module 1, but I maybe didn't process it till a month later. But then I have the community to ask questions and what did you do? What was your sort of client agreement like? And all the sort of things that you're starting out. It can feel like a lot at first, but the confidence was built from all the information and lots of support.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what I'm hearing is that you were finding, you know, kind of this groove in the events world in bringing your whole self into the work that you were doing and and I'm sure the amazing spaces that you were creating.
Totally.
But after a while, there was like kind of this almost like seeking energy inside of you, looking for something else.
Yes.
And so it sounds like coaching was the thing that you finally understood was you were looking for. What was it about becoming a coach that really rang out to you at that time?
Excuse me. It really felt like it was the space where I could be me. And, you know, psychology and therapy are all, of course, very great practices and school of thoughts, but they felt very black and white to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, as everyone starts to get to know me more while we spend this next hour together, I'm, you know, big energy. I've always felt like I thrive in the gray area. And those made me feel like I was, you know, putting myself into a box and only being able to go by these rules, which makes perfect sense for that. But for me, that it didn't work for me. So coaching was like, I can still help people. I can still bring my personality to the table. I can still make people laugh. I don't have to sit at a desk across and take notes and potentially prescribe medication. For me, it just felt like it aligned with who I am, as well as my innate want to help people, as well as my top value of being a leader.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm hearing that coaching was a space that you saw for you to really just be who you are and meet yourself where you were at, so that you can meet other people where they're at and hold space for them.
Literally. It was like, I can still help people, but I always would say to my friends, it felt like IPAC put a method to the madness for me.
Beautiful.
Because I had been doing these kinds of things my entire life. I didn't know I was necessarily a coach though, but I was always a leader. I was always the person who stood up for the person who wouldn't stand up or couldn't stand up for themselves. You know, I was a school mediator when I was in grade 2. And so if a kid was playing on the playground for too long, instead of going to a teacher, they'd come to me. Like, what other 8-year-old is really like consciously doing that?
Right.
Me.
Right.
But I just thought that was just totally what everybody does. But then as I grew up, I started to realize that's not actually what everybody does. So it really felt like it aligned it and literally connected all the dots throughout my entire life, leading up to this.
Yeah. One of the things that you shared with us that I really, really love, I'll just go throw it in here, is that you said that as a child, you asked why a lot. And now,
hi, Mom, I'm sorry if you're watching.
And now you get paid to ask why.
Literally, full circle.
Yeah.
I was literally like, my dad and my mom will always joke, like, Raia was the kid, if you tell her to go left, she'll go right. Like, I always asked the question why. I could never really just take anything for face value, not in a smart A kind of way, but more of a, so I can fully understand. Because I was always able to look at things objectively. When I was bullied in grade 3 and I wanted to be the bully in grade 4, when I switched schools, I had the mentality of, okay, let me hurt them before they hurt me, like any young person would have. But then I got there and I was like, I don't want to make people feel the way I felt. How can I do things differently? And I'll never forget this day. And I truly believe this changed the entire trajectory of my whole life. And since we're on the topic of kind of being a kid, I'm going to share this little piece with you all. I changed schools in grade 4. And I remember I walked into the classroom, I'm the only new kid, I'm the only fat kid, I'm the only black kid. So I was kind of like, oh man. And, you know, everyone's making fun of me, snickering about me, pointing at me, laughing. I was the only new kid. So they'd all been together for at least 2 or 3 years prior.
Right.
And I go to the restroom and I just bawl my eyes out, like sobbing, you know, like the ugly cry where you have snot and you're just like a mess.
Yeah. It's not pretty.
Yeah. One of those cries.
I can relate. Yeah.
You know, because I was only in grade 4, so I must be like 8 or 9 or 10, something like that. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I kid you not, saying, "You've done this before. You'll do this again. You have friends."
Wow. I just got chills.
Okay. Then I wiped my tears. There's more. Jenny, are you ready for it? I don't know how I came up with this stuff, but this is what I mean about my life purpose. So I wiped my tears away. Mom and dad had left for work. I got to handle this on my own. And there's nothing worse than being bullied and then your parents coming in to save the day. It makes things worse sometimes.
Right.
And I go back to the classroom and it hits me. And I walk around the room when I get back from the washroom or restroom for my American friends. And I introduce myself to every single kid, learn their name and something about them. And some of those kids are from that classroom are still my friends to this day. But what I realized later in life was that it took away their preconceived notions. And I was able to remove the barrier in the room by coming from a place of love, my higher self, and being solution focused rather than problem focused. In grade 4, no clue. None of this was taught to me. I didn't even know that that's what was happening. I was just doing what innately felt good, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's for me, I think, truly the most pivotal day of my life that set me on the path of always leading with love, which is truly one of my mantras, one of my top values, and something that I bring to anywhere and everywhere, every space that I go to.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, pairing that with asking why.
It's amazing. And that's such a beautiful illustration. I like, what a pivotal moment to even be able to look back on that now and say, I had a choice. You know, you saw yourself falling into that pattern.
Yes.
And saying, someone hurt me, I'm going to hurt them.
Yep.
And you made the conscious choice to choose love. And even though it might have been a little bit uncomfortable at the time, you were a coach then practicing curiosity and finding ways to create safe space and connect with others and, you know, assuming positive intent. Yeah. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. So for me, that I didn't recognize that until I started to get into my coaching world and work on my speeches and stuff and really reflecting on what got me to here, which is kind of the process I went through when I was creating the confidence talk. Because I was like, what do people want to know? And I was like, well, I have no idea. And then I was like, well, just talk about you a bit, because that's what they want to know about, how confidence relates to me and my personal experience, and then give them some tangible tools. So I go through kind of those pivotal moments throughout my life that all led me to here. And I always say that's the biggest one that changed everything. And I even still to this day, I can't believe that I was able to access that in grade 4 at that age. Yeah.
I'm so inspired by just how you openly share about your life experiences.
Thank you.
And, and that includes sharing all aspects of it,
Absolutely.
the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I'm curious for you, why is that important to you to share all of those parts of yourself in the work that you do and who you are?
Yeah, I think there wasn't any other option to an extent, because especially I think as we all learn going through IPEC, one of the, underlining pillars that we always kind of come back to is integrity. Your integrity as a coach. And that follows you everywhere you go, whether your coach hat is on or off. And in this crazy world of digital and social media, I was seeing that, a lot of people only post some things. And if that's what resonates for them, and if that's where they're at, I respect it. I honor that. Sure. But for me, I'm kind of, I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm not trying to put anything out there other than my experience and quotes, and hopefully inspire someone, maybe shift someone's perspective. So I really had the saying to myself, like, lead by example, and they will follow. And they will not follow me, but follow by leading by example themselves.
Right. Empowering themselves.
Yeah. Yes. And for me, that really kind of aligned me with IPEC as well, in terms of raising the consciousness of everyone in the world. And for me, let's always be true to ourselves. And I think that since, grade 4, being true to myself has always been something that's been important to me, and just being my authentic self at all times as much as I can, because I don't have the energy or time to be anyone else. And and it takes away from who you actually are.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? And if I'm going to be a leader,
to be anyone else, I love it.
I literally don't. And if I'm going to be a leader, and I do a lot of school talks, I want kids to have a role model that they can look up to. And I kind of wish that when I was younger, I had more role models that were more fully authentic. Some days are good, some days are bad, but if we can recognize, that kind of stuff. So being authentic is letting people know that we are all on a journey, and it's never me versus you. It's us learning, growing, and sharing together. And that's kind of my messaging whenever I do any talk or workshop, that it's not me versus you.
Right.
I'm sharing, and what you may say will share, and everyone in this room will grow together, like what we're doing right now.
Right. Right. And in contrast, I'm envisioning even kind of the way that society has gotten into this like kind of one-upping trend of like, here's my story, here's my story, here's my story, and trying to one-up each other. And what you're saying is that by us all sharing our stories and owning it and and taking that responsibility and empowering ourselves to grow through that, we all learn together. We all grow together. It's not a competition. It's not a who's got a sadder story competition or anything like that, or who gets more likes.
Yeah. I always say, collaboration over competition.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So important.
I would love to segue this. You gave us a little teaser on the confidence talk. Talk to us a little bit more about what messages you were creating and expressing through that talk.
Yeah, well, I think it was also figuring out as I go, right? Because this was, I think, I was creating, because I figured, the natural evolution for me has always been to also be a public speaker. Always something I thought, but I'm not going to lie, everyone, because always authentic self. I was so scared of public speaking. Like anyone who was in my year of IPEC, big shout out to my team. Love you all, miss you. Yes. But I remember the first time I was doing like a public speaking thing in front of people who I love dearly. I remember getting distracted, couldn't read, my hands shaking, being nervous. Like it's one thing to work a room when everyone's kind of focusing on different things, but when all eyes are on you.
You're the one.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa. And so for me, I shifted that into just collecting all that energy in the room and moving my dial to match. So before I start anything, usually for a keynote or workshop, I take a deep breath and I say, let's all take a deep breath together. And the audience may think it's for them, but it's really for me. And so when I was thinking about creating my first talk, I was like, I could talk about this and that and this and a million things. It'll be great. Blank page for weeks. Nada. And then I was like, okay, well, let's start with what you know. And who do you know better than yourself? Okay, then a little idea, spark starts to go off. So then I go, okay. And I remember re-listening to the Find Your Niche teleclass.
Through the coach training program. Yep.
Yeah, like 5 times in a row. And I remember writing down, no joke, team. I remember writing down, I help people with blank. And I think there's a few more words to kind of finish that up, but I remember being like, okay, this is where I should start. And then I moved back and looked at things more objectively. And I said, why do clients come to me? What is it that differentiates me between anybody else? And so I looked through all my clients, and the pillar that I could see, the underlining, was always confidence. And then people would be like, oh, well, how are you so confident? Well, I want to learn how to be confident like you. And I was like, oh, boom. So then that's when the confidence talk was born. And so I talk about my story a little bit of, grade 4, being a school mediator in grade 2, and grade 7 admissions interview to a new school. They asked me they said, if you had a magical wand, what would your wish be? And I said, I would give it to someone else who hasn't had a wish come true before.
Wow.
Like, who was I? No idea, just a kid, but this was just who I am to my core. And then I decided, what are the best ways, in my opinion, are to build confidence? Because it's not just about looking in the mirror or feeling like you've got the best outfit on. It's really got to stem from in here. And I believe that it's the foundation and the backbone of everything we do, from the way we walk, talk, eye contact, body language, speaking up for yourself, like so many things.
Right.
So then I started building backwards. And so my confidence talk, I kind of have like a top 10 ways to build and achieve, based off my own opinion, some research and experience with all my clients.
Sure.
And, very things that we all know, like gratitude, selflessness, boundaries, self-love and self-care, like things that we've all heard of before. But then I always am saying to people, but how often do you consciously implement them into your day-to-day life? That's the key. And for me, that's kind of been the talk that I've done to charities, grade 4s, and some of the top companies in the world, because not one person is exempted from confidence. And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I love it. So how
gets me fired up. I could talk about this.
I know. I'm like, so with the confidence talk, it sounds like this is something that is almost like a living, breathing expression of who you are.
Literally.
And from day to day, even the confidence talk could look and feel and seem different depending on how you're showing up and who you're connecting with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's so great. And that's why, like, it literally can be for anyone. And when I do it for the grade 4s, I tailor it a little bit, but they get it.
Right.
They get
you
it.
Have that framework. I love it.
And some of the things that grade 4s have said have been so touching, especially, as a kid who's thinking about their sexuality or things like that. And they've said, wow, like, I didn't know that gay people were nice. One grade 4 wrote that. And he said, so now, and then I said, okay, what's one thing you can do differently after what you learned today? And it was an anonymous piece. And he said, I now know that it's okay. And I'm going to be nicer.
Wow.
And like little things like that. And they're only, grade 3, grade 4. So I don't think it's impossible for anyone to lead from a place of love, if I can really break it down.
Yeah. I'd love for everyone who's watching or listening to really think about how much awareness can be created by understanding more about your own story, and what might even be in the way of you stepping into that story, because that's where the power is. That's where you can build from. That's where you can take ownership. And so it's such a beautiful message, Raia. I love it. It's really exciting to hear this fluid project that, you know, started out as you figuring out your coaching niche, uncovering that part of yourself. And now it's a platform that you can speak to and connect with people no matter where they're at.
Absolutely. And I didn't figure out my niche right away, right? I went through that process, but that wasn't until maybe 1.5 years after I'd already graduated and been practicing. So at first I was like, I coach everybody. I love everybody. You know,
come to me.
Everybody. Cast a big net. And I kept being like, niche this, niche that, doesn't apply to me. But then lo and behold, it happened because I was challenging myself to rise more. And so each part of us requires new tools as we evolve. So to anyone out there who's figuring out your niche, take your time. It's a beautiful journey and it may not happen overnight, and that's okay. And friendly reminder to myself too, because at that time I was like so frustrated about it, or also like, I don't need one. And then it just happened organically. So your journey is going to be your journey. And I think that's a beautiful part of this coaching process, is that you learn so much about yourself, and that helps you show up as who you are as a coach.
Yeah, I think that's so exciting. It's like secret sauce. Spoiler alert to anyone who isn't already an IPEC coach. I don't think everyone realizes before you join the program how much inner transformation that happens when you're becoming a coach. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that, because I always say to my clients, like, everything you're doing, I've done. I can't ask my clients to do things that I haven't challenged myself to do.
Right.
So I love that part about IPEC as well, is that we're going through it so that we also understand what it's like for our clients, and also so that we can continue to show up and have those experiences. Oh, I love it.
Raia, I'm getting this intuitive hit to share this. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. When we were preparing for this interview together, and I was really thinking about the concept of shifting what hinders you into what empowers you, that coupled with, we're reading Braving the Wilderness in my book club right now. I woke up this morning and I realized that for the first time in a long time, I've been having recurring anxiety every Wednesday. I wake up with anxiety, and I feel it in my body. I feel anxiousness. I feel like I'm dreading something. And so what came to me thinking about, wow, I'm going to be talking with Raia later today. And what would I like to reflect back on in this moment? Something that I did. And so all I did was write about how I was feeling. I wrote it down and I said, here you are again, anxiety. So interesting that you're here. I noticed in the past that I've pushed you down, or tried to brush you off, or tried to attach an anchor to you so that you sink down and I don't have to deal with you. But here you are again each week coming back to see me. And so I'm hereby taking you out and looking at you and saying, I see you and see you next week. And
so good.
And so I shared that as a way to just kind of claim it. And to me, that simple act of becoming aware of what I was experiencing and claiming it helped me, even though my feelings didn't change, I still felt the feelings. I felt so much more empowered because it was outside of me and I knew what I was feeling and I knew what I was looking at. And so I'm curious how that resonates with you.
Yeah, I think that like 10 minutes beforehand, I felt what you were feeling. And one, I think anxiety is something that we all go through in different ways. So for me, I never like to use that word because it has such a negative connotation to it for myself personally. Obviously, if then this resonates for anyone else, I encourage you to do it. But I switch the words. So for me, whenever I'm feeling anxious, I go, I'm feeling decisive and passionate. And then I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And then I put on my favorite songs and I was like, I love what I do. I love sharing. And I'm nervous or I get anxious because I want to show up as my best self, because being a leader is important to me. So that resonates a lot, that angst can come up whenever I'm doing something that's important to me. and recognizing it is the number one thing for me as well. Like, I see you, I know what you're trying to do, but it's not going to work.
Right.
Because I've combated you before. And either
anything,
way, I'm the boss here.
This is a signal. This is a signal showing me that this is important and that I'm going to pay attention to this and I'm going to dig into this and really understand what this means for me.
Yeah. How passionate are you about this Energy Live series?
Right. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah.
So it's interesting that the angst comes up on Wednesdays.
Yeah. Yeah. More to dig into that later. Awesome. So
don't put a couple of coaches on a live, girl.
I know, right? I want to talk a little bit more about you as a coach.
Okay.
And the clients who you work with.
Cool.
Not specifically who they are or anything, but the way that you hold space for them so that they can tap into that confidence and support that you so effortlessly have flow through you. So what does that, what does that look like? What does that feel like for you?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, because I think that's also part of me being a Virgo, because we were talking about Virgo stuff. And, you know, we're earth signs. I'm very grounded. I've never had to question who I am. Clearly, as you can see from when I was a kid. So for me, holding space is honestly such a great way to kind of allow them to move through things on their own, knowing you're there. That's kind of my favorite way to describe it. However, that was actually one of the harder things for me to learn in my coaching process. And some of my feedback from my mentor coach, who was great, said, you have great questions, but try not to stack them.
Like question all
before
at once.
I got an answer, because I heard silence. And so then that made me dig deeper on, because in general, I feel uncomfortable with the silence. Like, I'm at a dinner table and no one's talking. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. Let's make this happen. Yeah, fill it up. So I had to reflect on that. And I realized that I don't love the silence because it makes me feel like people don't care, or they're not engaged, or they don't want my company, which obviously isn't the case. Or maybe it is sometimes, but now I just make sure that I honor that space, that silence, you know? So now, rather than stacking a question when my clients pause, I pause with them. And sure enough, within a minute or two or 3 or 5, they can come up with something. And so for me, that was such a game changer in power, in understanding the importance of holding space and allowing them to process it, especially as I'm a secondary processor as well, that sometimes can't answer everything all at once.
Right.
But I can if I think about it a little bit. So I think holding space just really is what helps with the flow, rather than more questions to fully dig deeper. Because I'm going to dig deep regardless. But so for me, the silence means I'm onto something. Just like the resistance is a clue that we're onto something, for me, the silence also means that I'm onto something, and they are doing an internal dig. So it's so powerful, but it took me some time to get there, to learn that, to adapt to that.
Right. And to honor their space and their journey for uncovering their answers that are within them.
100%. And I think also for me, when I started to feel uncomfortable in the silence, that's when I would get close to wanting to give advice, rather than asking the question to pull it out of them from their own space. So it's been such a game changer for me in terms of being my best coach, being my best self. Yeah. And now I love it.
I'm hearing a lot of trust in yourself.
Absolutely.
And trust in your abilities, and trust that you are showing up in the best way that you can when you're holding space for a client.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I'm able to hear much more. Hear, see, feel, right? Because there's so many other things happening than just what they're saying.
Right. Yeah. That's something that we learn in the coach training program, is that there's deeper levels of listening that you can do when you build that confidence as a coach, and you start to understand that the words that someone is saying are not as important as how they're saying it and the energy that's behind it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Such a big and useful and impactful tool when coaching, especially in this digital world.
Right. Right. We were reflecting a little bit before about some of the workshops and things that you get to run. And as a fellow space holder, I love to hear perspectives on how you create safe spaces for your participants to show up as their full selves and get the most out of the workshops that you create. So I'd love for you to just riff a little bit on what you feel like a safe space is.
I do this every time, no matter what. And I do an icebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Super simple. So I'll do a little bit of my intro, who I am, a little bit of my backstory, why I'm here. Because sometimes people are like, okay, why am I listening to this person talk? Especially if it's mandatory.
Right.
And so I'm first, I always say, this is us learning and growing and sharing together. It's not me versus you. And then the other thing I like to do is called community code. And so that's where I kind of say, okay, if you were up here talking, or if you were talking about something that was important to you, what would you need from the audience to feel heard and respected? And so everyone can shout out something, and I'll put that on the board. And it's like respect, open mind, kindness, stuff like that. Great. And then I go, if everyone agrees to abide by these rules during our time together, raise your hand. Everyone puts up their hand. Boom. Now we have a community code, a guideline of rules for us to practice during our time together. Beautiful. So that means if someone talks over someone, the whole team can be like, community code, bro, we don't do that.
Right.
Yep. We all agree to this, right? So that always a great way to shift the morale, create a bit more of that open space, and then to just really bring it full circle and holistically from all angles is the icebreaker. And so I always ask people 3 questions. And I'll go around the room. Even if it's more than a group of 40, sometimes I can't, but I'll either get them to write it down and share with their partner and have a few people volunteer. But if it's 30 or less, I'll take that extra time and go around the entire room. Mm-hmm. And the 3 questions usually for me are, tell me your name or a little bit about yourself. Most people high level. Mm-hmm. But the magic is really in these 2 questions. Tell me one thing you're proud of. Boom. Let's get people fired up.
Love it.
And 3, what's one thing you feel as though you can improve upon? And so the first person might say, yeah, I could improve on this. And then the other person will be like, I can improve upon my communication or my anger management, or it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And boom, now we're in this locked, concealed container of love and trust. And you understand what that person's going through, and you understand what that person's going through. And now we're friends forever.
Love it. Yeah. And we've connected through the stuff that makes us real, not the stuff that we're putting highlights of on Instagram. Yeah,
exactly. And so removing those blocks, removing those masks and those shields, and being like, cool, we're all here just humans trying to learn together. Mm-hmm. So it's a major shift. And you can feel it. And then I asked them that. I said, did anyone in this room feel that shift after we did that? And even if you're not a coach, or they don't necessarily understand the many levels of energy like we go over in the coaching training, they get it.
Yeah.
You can feel it. That person next to you isn't a stranger anymore. Oh, it's such a good feeling. I'm just thinking about it. I can't wait to be doing in-person stuff again.
I know. Yeah.
You can still feel it via Zoom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think so too. And what I'm hearing is that when you're working with a group, you're setting expectations from the beginning and setting an intention from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And then creating some ground rules, co-creating ground rules together.
Yes.
You're not the one who's saying these are the rules, you're co-creating it with everyone. And then you're giving these opportunities to connect from the heart.
Absolutely.
And not just from the head.
Absolutely. And again, leading by example. The community code applies to me too.
Right. Love it.
We
have a question coming in. We have someone who's curious. Tell us how you got your first client referrals. How did you start first working with clients as a coach?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So first thing I did, excuse me, as soon as I was like maybe 6 months through the program, I immediately changed my handle on my email. So instead of it saying event specialist, it said life coach and event specialist. Ooh, so right away, act as if I am. boom, let's go. So then people started to see it that way. Then, you know, I shared on Facebook and letting people know, and everyone I encountered talked about it.
Right.
Nonstop, you know. And
you shared your authenticity and your story. Oh my gosh, imagine that.
right. And imagine that. And the response was crazy, especially because coming from the event industry, every single person was like, whoa, this is perfect. This is so you. Oh my God, I can't wait. I'll hire you. Like, because I had already been being myself. I already was holding space. I already was leading by example. I already was being a woman of my word no matter what. I already was leading with love. So people were like, oh yeah, this is like, so I didn't really have like a major transition. So my first referrals really came from the people I'd worked with for 10 years, people in the industry and the event industry. Because I threw parties for anyone who joined a little bit late. And that was really great. And then I started to say, okay, well, I'm happy to take it. Or someone would give me a referral and I'd be like, because I'm a student, so my prices are cheaper. I think I was doing like 25 or $50 for an hour session if they give me a testimonial so that I could graduate.
Yep. Love it.
Right. So that worked well, but I was so nervous. So like, oh my God, I have to ask the perfect question. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Which then got me in my head too much. But then if I just took a deep breath and flowed, it always worked. So my tip would be to act as if and let people know where you are on your journey. Don't wait until you've finished coaching for a year. Be like, I'm in the process of becoming a life coach. I'm happy to offer sessions. Let people know. Put that on Facebook. Put that on LinkedIn. Put it in your email. Like, start putting that out there, because that's the only way people are going to know.
Right.
It's very much like when people are like, well, no one offered me a job. I can't believe it. But if no one knew you were looking for a job and you currently have one, why would anyone offer you with a job?
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
let's communicate. Let's put ourselves out there in the best way possible. And it also works really well as getting rid of the people who aren't going to support you.
Right.
Bye.
Yes. Because you might not be for everyone, and that's totally okay. Yeah.
Create space for the people who do want to support you no matter what.
Yeah. That's a
Which was
beautiful
also
illustration. Love it.
That was a big shift as well, I think, in transitioning, especially because like 27, and I used to throw parties. You can imagine the shift of me being like, oh, I'm up at 7 a.m. now instead of noon.
Right.
All these people
Right.
only wanted to hang out with me so I could get them into the club. And now that I don't go out anymore, they don't text me back. Oh, okay. You know, going through all of that. And it was painful because I have a lot of love. I'll always have love for all those people. But it was painful to me to recognize that they only saw me as a club friend, a party friend, rather than a real friend, when I saw them as a real friend, because I don't have judgment. I can be friends with anybody.
Sure.
But then it created space for a lot of the mentors and leaders and other really, really great people in my life. So I'm grateful for my whole journey.
Yeah. I was going to say, turning the page on that chapter in your life.
Yeah.
Probably felt a little uncomfortable, but to hear about the next chapters and how your inner transformation and how you invited in more people into your life, you actually got more friends and more contacts and are more in alignment. Like, the risk was worth it.
Yeah. I built a longer table rather than stop sending out invites to dinner.
Oh, I love that.
And I think that that's just such a big shift for all of us. And especially because of the transition, I obviously took a really big income hit. And I think that it'd be tricky and hard to not get into, have to make money, have to support my family, have to do that. Right. Of course, right? It's top for a lot of people. But I remember still to this day, I say this, I just would always like take a breath and say to myself, the money will come. So this is the other tip about putting yourself out there, is I did a lot of things for free. I went to speak at a school for a bunch of grade 3s, or I went to do this little workshop, or I did this, or I did that, or I did a podcast. And I always said to myself, the money will come. Obviously, in reason, when whatever works for everybody. Obviously, everyone's budget is going to be different. But for me, I felt like I was grinding. Talk to everybody, connect, network, do it all. And now, those are all even if those people didn't become clients, that person referred me. Right. At school that I went to and spoke for free, those teachers then hired me at the company they moved on to. Or, and it's all so intricate. And that's truly how I've been able to run my business for 6 years now, off referrals. No team, no management, no marketing plan, no business plan. Just leading with love and being my authentic self. putting
It's
myself
such a
out.
beautiful testament to building your social capital as a coach
Yeah.
and investing in people and ideas and concepts and things that are connected to your heart and not necessarily your head, not knowing when it's going to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
That's a huge trust exercise.
100%. And, you know, following up with people. Not everyone is going to be a client, and it doesn't mean we have to get mad or discouraged. I would still follow up with those people. Hey, sending you love, hope you're well. Not expecting anything in
Without
return.
any, yes, love that.
Right?
Yeah.
6 months later, that person becomes a client or
They're
their
ready.
friend or their, you know, it's always something. And also trying my best to accommodate everyone in some ways. You know, if someone emails me and they go, hey, I can't afford your coaching right now, but this is where I'm at in life, boom, 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 ready to make change. I'll be like, cool, let's jump on a 15-minute call. Because I've now, right. And I, you know, have said, okay, 15 minutes to me to help a fellow human, let's go. Whether they sign with me or not, it doesn't matter because I'm helping raise the consciousness.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it always comes back full circle. During COVID from March, April, May, I gave out 10 free sessions a day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
Didn't ask for testimonial, didn't ask for a social media post, nothing. I didn't even need to know your real name.
Wow.
And it absolutely is coming back. Has
that ripple effect.
Full circle.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to get real for a second in here and say,
that, Jenny, let's
do it. Sometimes, you know, especially now, it can feel like what's happening in the world externally is just a lot. It almost feels like it's too much to take in the fire hose. It's almost like we have multiple fire hoses spraying on us, and it can be an overload, and it can feel really uncomfortable, and it can make us feel like we're stuck. It can make us feel like, why do anything? Because I can't move. I'm paralyzed. I feel paralyzed. You know, it's hard and uncomfortable. And so I'm curious, like, what advice do you have in those types of situations?
Yeah. For me, you know, again, like everyone else, I was experiencing the ups and downs and the hurt and pain about what's going on in the world. And there is a lot going on in this world. It literally feels like every day there's something catastrophic.
Yes. Painful.
And
yeah.
You know, I think anyone who's a coach or thinking about being a coach has a bit more of that empathy and is a bit of an empath in some way, shape, or form. So I feel it. You know, it's a cloudy day in Toronto here, plus everything that's going on in the world. Statistically, this would be a Saturday for me, you know?
Yeah.
But number one tip is dip into a toolbox. And so tools for me, I always kind of refer to them as things that help us feel at our best. So that way, when I have a bad day, a sad day, or feeling like I'm in a funk, rather than potentially turning to my vices, whatever, we all have something to an extent, and that's the default the brain wants to go to, I can put the toolbox in front of that. And then typically once I do something that I already know helps me, I won't turn to the vices. So for me, it's listening to music. One of my top tools, like I did right before we went on. So at first I'm kind of like, and then I'm like, and I'm dancing and I feel amazing, and boom, my energy naturally shifts, right? And just kind of creating that toolbox so that you have an array of things that you know help refuel your energy, so that when anything shows up, you can tap into one of those, which I think is important. I think, you know, keep maintaining a solid mindset, maintaining somewhat of a routine, because most of us are working from home right now, and not spending too much time on social media, I would say. You know, I think that it's easy to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. And, you know, there's a lot going on in the world. So there are going to be things that naturally impact you, whether you think in that moment it is or not, but you saw it, you read it, whatever it is, right? So limiting your social media in some way, shape, or form or just taking those spaces, taking those breaks.
Yeah. I'm hearing that in a way, it's almost like you're creating best self-hygiene practices.
Yeah. I like that.
Things that you know are going to help keep you clean and letting things go that aren't serving you.
Yep.
like a brushing of the mind, if you will.
Absolutely.
And shaking it off and allowing yourself to be open to the information that you trust is going to be able to get to you.
Yes.
Without worrying about having to like seek out all the different things. Like what we need to know will come to us.
Absolutely. And then I think you can support and show up in the ways that, you know, are best for you. Maybe not everyone can donate. Maybe not everyone can do this or do that, but I'm sure that we can all find something in a way to, you know, get that energy out and to support any causes that are important to us.
Yeah. Because I feel like that if we're showing up on our platforms because we feel like we should, even that in itself is not sustainable.
It's not. It's really not. And that's what I say to people. I'm like, yeah, I might be deemed an influencer now because I have, you know, a large following on Instagram. I don't care. It's great that I've built this community and I go out of my way to make sure I know almost everybody's name and have had some sort of connection with them. But for me, it's impact over numbers. I'll go a week without posting. And other people are like, oh, what? You have to post 4 times a day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
all the rules.
No, I don't.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know what the algorithms are. I don't know any of it. And I don't want to know because at the end of the day, I'm keeping in doing things my way. I'm keeping doing things the way that resonate for me, where I can show up as my best self, where I can give love and support people. I'm not gonna be able to, you know, my quote the other day was, an empty cup cannot fill another. So I want to be full so that I give that love from my overflow as much as I possibly can, whether it's online, in person, or right here on Zoom with all of you.
Right. I love it. Raia, so good.
Jenny, talk forever.
So inspired. Yes, we could totally riff on things all day.
Who needs a script? Literally not us.
I hope that everyone who's listening in found this as valuable as I did. It's so inspiring hearing your story, Raia, and hearing how you hold space for your clients.
Thank you so much.
And for anyone who's not your client, even you're holding space by filling yourself up and allowing what needs to be seen. And it's a beautiful gift for especially now. So thank you for everything that you do.
You know, big thanks to you and Jordan. I know she's here, but she's on mute, and to the entire IPEC community and everyone. You know, that was one of the reasons why I chose to go and work and learn from IPEC. Not just because of the incredible school of thought and the processes and everything that you will learn that literally sets you up, but it was the community. It was the ongoing community and the fact that I had access to all of the work for the rest of my life. I've taken mod 1, 2, and 3 probably 3 times each.
Yeah,
because no extra charge.
You can go back and volunteer after you get your certification. Yeah.
So I've volunteered a gazillion times. No, I don't think any other school offers that. And I've done tons of research. So for me, because I'm a secondary processor, I need a little bit of hand holding. It's been really, really great to have the support of the community. So thanks to all the IPEC team, potential IPEC people, and of course to you, Jenny and Jordan.
Yes, I feel it. Thank you so much, Raia.
From my heart.
And you're welcome. Yeah. Okay,
that's me sending you love.
Woo, girl, I feel it. Whoosh. Okay, so Jordan is gonna put your contact information in our links and in our show notes if anyone wants to get in touch with you. If anyone is interested in becoming an IPEC coach, we have an amazing admissions coach team. They're the front lines. They're the ones who are there to give you an actual coaching session with no strings attached, just to help you explore what it would mean to be a coach the same way that Raia was able to in her process. And then obviously they can give you all the logistics information too, like when the next training is coming up.
And once you're a student, the same person is your contact.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So love it.
We are putting all of the information in our different areas, so be sure to check that out. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation, if you are in our IPEC community, be sure to join us over in our private Facebook group. We have an amazing resource there that we get to tap into as coaches. And if anyone is not yet a coach, I totally invite you to check out the One Idea Away community. It's a really great place to have conversations like this, even if you're not already a certified professional coach. So definitely check it out. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks again, everyone who's able to join us live and for the replay. Raia, thank you.
Thank you,
And we will
everyone.
see you all next time for our Energy Explorer series.
So much love.
Love everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Check out IPEC's coach training program at ipeccoaching.com/OIA. And of course, to find out about all the conversations, events, gatherings, all the things that we've got upcoming, then head on over to oneideaaway.com/community. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please do us the favor of subscribing, reviewing the show, as well as sharing insights or comments that stood out for you in this episode.